Trade talks are escalating surrounding the Toronto Maple Leafs as multiple reports have dropped, revealing a surprising Leafs trade update. We're going to break down exactly what that report is and what it entails as a new trade target has been revealed in light of Yani Hakanpää's situation becoming worse and worse each day. Stay tuned for all that in this episode, but before we get into it, quick reminder, hit that subscribe button. If you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, about 70% of you aren't subscribed. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Again, happy holidays to you all. Christmas is now over. The Leafs play tomorrow, so a lot of things are going to start going down regarding the Toronto Maple Leafs. But happy holidays! Hopefully, you guys all enjoy Christmas if you celebrate, and thank you guys for your continued support as well. We saw you in the comment section yesterday, so thank you guys for that. But there's a lot to go over today surrounding the Toronto Maple Leafs and trade talks. We have a bunch of different articles dropping. We have some rumors circulating and some reports, and we're going to start with an update surrounding Yani Hakanpää because this kind of leans into the trade update. So Yani Hakanpää's knee remains a big question mark, making his situation uncertain and hard to predict. Given this, it wouldn't be surprising to see the Leafs trade for a depth defenseman before the deadline, similar to Luke Schenn or Ilya Lyubushkin moves they've made in recent years. And that's from, of course, Chris Johnston. And we've obviously been talking about a third-line center. We've been talking about sometimes a second-line center. But at this point, we're looking at the defense group, and it's been okay. Connor Timmins has started to struggle a little bit. Morgan Rielly's having a bit of a disappointing year considering what we expected from him. But given the fact that Yani Hakanpää still hasn't been taken off the IR, it seems like they're going to be pursuing Luke Schenn or a move similar to that. We have another report surrounding Luke Schenn here in a minute, but if this is Yani Hakanpää, the end of his tenure, it was a short-lived thing, but I still have some hope that he's going to play. It's just these reports are making that making me less and less optimistic each day.
He may play again, but to me, it's looking likely that it's going to be an in and out situation where he's going to need like 4 games, 5 games off at a time for every one game that he plays or something like that. Because, when they first signed him, it was July 1st. We were live on the channel kind of breaking it down. We're like, oh, Yani Hakanpää, that's a great physical presence. And then obviously the signing wasn't announced until I think September. I can't remember the exact date, but it took a long time. It might have been actually October, closer to training camp. But, at the time, you're like, okay, this is a little weird. I went from a 2-year deal down to a 1-year deal, and it was a little bit less money. And then you're thinking, okay, what's going on here? He had a procedure. He was rehabbing his knee. He just had another procedure. Like he got into 3 games. He had another procedure to clean up his knee a little bit more. And now he's rehabbing again. So it's looking less and less likely like he might be an option for the Leafs because there keeps being, roadblock after roadblock. And I think that's something you have to consider if you're the Leafs. So he's going to continue to rehab. And, I'll stay optimistic and say, maybe there's a world where he gets into games. But at this point in the season, to still be rehabbing another procedure, he's not getting into game action. Will he be ready for the playoffs? These are all things you have to consider if you're the Leafs. And again, that report went on to say, they might be considering an Ilya Lyubushkin move, a Luke Schenn move, like these moves, these low-key moves that they've been making over the last couple of years. And I was thinking to myself, first of all, Nick, Ilya Lyubushkin is not on the table for me personally, or I think half of Leafs Nation at this point. But I was trying to think, what's another low-key defenseman they could trade for? And, I landed on Luke Schenn. Why don't they just go out and get Luke Schenn at this point, right? Like add him back to the lineup. Nashville is 28th in the league. It looks like they're not going to make the playoffs after, signing pretty much everyone in the offseason. So I was thinking to myself, why don't the Leafs go out and get Luke Schenn? Because that's a definite answer over somebody like Yani Hakanpää, who is struggling with injuries still.
Yeah, the report, the most recent update, regarding him is that he's still rehabbing it. That's really all I have for you, which doesn't really doesn't give the fan base and doesn't give anybody, much confidence regarding his return. He's more of a playoff player. We said that when he signed, but at the same time, I don't know if he's even going to be healthy enough for the playoffs or if they go out and acquire a Luke Schenn or go out and acquire, a Lyubushkin type player, which I hope they don't. Ilya Lyubushkin himself, that is. We went through that experience last year and it wasn't great. Then maybe they can, I don't even know if there's going to be room for Yani Hakanpää at this time. Maybe he won't even be a Toronto Maple Leaf, but a report dropped from The Athletic, kind of revealing according to these insiders, some Maple Leaf targets and why Toronto might need to shop for another defenseman. And it's not even a conversation we were expecting to have here regarding another defenseman. They had tons of depth in the defensive. You think about Philip Myers, you think about all these different guys, and it's just at the point now where we had Timothy Liljegren before. They obviously got Matt Benning back in that trade, who is now, of course, not with the big league club. So it's intriguing, but reports are circulating surrounding Luke Schenn, and his cap hit is $2.75 million, and he is a veteran guy. He is 35 years old. This wouldn't be acquiring, like we've been talking about with Brad Treliving, acquiring a player with control or anything like that. At least he has a year after next year, but control in the sense of he's not going to be a piece for the team in the future beyond 2026, and maybe not even beyond this year if they acquire him. But His stats are, I mean, again, it's a defenseman, so his stats don't really mean too much. He just turned 35, but Darius, 2 points, 35 games. He's a defensive minded center, but I think he would. Again, he's playing on a very bad Nashville Predators team, which was supposed to be really good, but I think he could elevate the floor a little bit, especially in that third line pairing of this Toronto Maple Leafs team, and kind of do what Yani Hakanpää was supposed to do, but with a bit more, I guess, a bit more reliability from his end.
Well, like you were talking about, we've been talking about the Leafs adding a centerman, and I still think they need to do that. But all of a sudden, this has creeped up on us where they might have to add another depth defenseman. And you brought up a guy like Philippe Meyer as well. Philippe Meyer is not a needle mover to me in any which way. He's just a guy you can plug into the lineup if need be, and if there's injuries in the playoffs or something like that. So I think he's fine in that regard. But Yanni Hakanpää, you knew what he brought to the lineup, and that is that physicality. So that was what he was bringing to the lineup. That was his number one thing. And obviously, he's not getting into games. Luke Schenn is a needle mover to me. Obviously, when they acquired him at the trade deadline 2 years ago and they went on to finally win a playoff round, he was a big difference maker there playing with Morgan Riley. He would be the perfect partner, for Morgan Riley again this year. And we'll get into what could be some possible line combinations in a minute. But I think in adding a guy like Luke Schenn, again, I think he's a difference maker in what he does. So I think that would be perfect. Like you mentioned, you have the cost control. It's very cost controlled. Like you can definitely trade for that contract if there's retained salary. Excuse me. You can definitely make that work. You have another year after this year, so it's very enticing. I think it's a lot better than obviously the last time we acquired him, where then he walked to go to Nashville. But I think the situation in Nashville allows this to happen because they're not going to make the playoffs, and I think they might be open to selling off some of their older pieces. And again, I think he would be a difference maker. So if they are targeting defensemen at this point, because again, they're one injury away from, we're seeing him now in the lineup regularly, Philippe Meyer, right? And I just don't know if he's that much of a difference maker come playoff time.
Yeah, and you looked at some of the other things here. You can obviously Luke Schenn versus the Lightning, the hot mic throwback to then a couple of years ago. But you look at this here from Hot Take Hockey, something to keep in mind when talking Leafs pairs. I still think they can upgrade or add another playoff style right-handed defenseman. The return of Luke Schenn again makes so much sense. Make it happen. McCabe, Tanev, Riley, Schenn, OEL, Timmins with Benoit on the outside looking in. As is from Hot Take Hockey, I mean, it looks good. You obviously want to keep that pairing of Riley and Schenn together. And it doesn't really matter what order you have them in. McCabe and Tanev, OEL, Timmins. OEL, Timmins is a little bit concerning at times defensively, but if Timmins can get back to what he was doing earlier on in the season and kind of buying into the Craig Berube mindset and play style, then it should be good here. But this blue line looks a lot better if you had a guy like Luke Schenn in, even though the blue line has been solid this season. It started to tail off a little bit. And obviously, it doesn't help that the goaltending is significantly, not worse, but you're missing your best goaltender in Anthony Stolarz. So things are looking, people are pressing a little bit right now surrounding the Toronto Maple Leafs, especially after that loss against the Jets. But I like these pairings a lot here.
I like these pairings a lot, and I've always liked Luke Schenn. I think he would, again, be a needle mover for this team. If you look at these defense pairings, like it's a perfect mix, completely different than last year. Even the year that they won a playoff round, completely different. You have a great mix of everything. You have some puck movement, obviously the physicality, right? Love that. OEL on your third pairing is perfect. He's been playing great all season overall, right? I think he's been a great acquisition. But if you were to put him on that third pairing, I think he would play that much better because he's playing less, a different role. He doesn't have to play a shutdown position in any regard, really. Him with Timmins, they can kind of just have fun on that third pairing, I think. So that could be a better spot for him. And again, Benoit, we've been on the Benoit train, but if your defense is so good that it's pushing him out, I don't think that's a bad thing at that point. So again, love Luke Schenn. I think it's definitely possible. They can definitely make this trade work. It's not out of the realm of possibility. It's not a Nazem Kadri trade, for example. So I think that they can definitely make something like this work. And I think Leaf fans love Luke Schenn. I was disappointed when he signed in Nashville. I thought he's still got a couple years left. He can make another good run here with the Leafs, and they finally won that playoff round. And I think the team plays differently now too. So adding him back in, I think would be a great move for them. So that would be exciting, but they are targeting some other players as well. But I think Luke Schenn would be a great fit.
Yeah, let us know what your thoughts are on Schenn. Quickly before we wrap up here, the World Juniors begin. Here's a thread showcasing some of the buds at the World Junior Classic over the years, including, of course, Easton Cowan and some other guys as well. So we'll obviously keep you up to date with that as well. So let us know down below if you're excited for this, and also let us know if you're excited for, hopefully, the Toronto Maple Leafs making some big moves as the season progresses, because they're in a bit of a weird spot right now, dealing with some injuries, dealing with injuries to their star player and players, if you consider Anthony Stolarz a star at this point. I do, because I like Anthony Stolarz. But that'll wrap it up. Let us know down below what your thoughts are. Thank you guys for watching. See you tomorrow.